You know what? I just realized this is actually the wrong picture. Whoops. So, scratch that. I'll draw it down here. The actual picture should look something like this. Oh dear. Alright, this is what the graph should look like. I labeled all my points just because my lines are not the straightest. Okay. What we want to do here is we want to find the equation of each of these lines. This line, it goes up 1 over 1, so we know it has a slope of 1. And it has a y-intercept of 0. So this line is going to have an equation of y equals 1x plus 0, or just y equals x. This one over here, if you were to continue with this down, this is going to hit at -1. So your b is -1, and just like the other one, they're meant to be parallel. It goes up 1 over 1, so your m is 1. So this equation is y equals x. This other equation, y equals mx plus b, x minus 1. So our piecewise function, y equals f of x, which equals x. I guess I don't need to write 4. When x is in between 0 and 1, not including 1 because the 1 is included over here, and x minus 1 when x is greater than, totally wrote that backwards, when x is greater than or equal to 1. There we go. So this is your answer. Alright, you guys go ahead and try this one. Alright, I want to spend just a minute going over some of this because this one's a little bit more complicated than the one over here. The first line isn't too difficult. Your b is 2, your slope is -1, but this one is a little bit more difficult, a little bit harder. Your slope, if you cannot figure out just by counting what the slope is, another way to do it is to subtract the y's over the x's. Hopefully you guys remember this equation. This is your rise, this is your run. So I subtracted y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's how I got my slope, -1 over 3. Now, your y-intercept also, kind of hard to tell what it is. But we have our slope, and we have an x and y, or if you want, you could use this one over here. We can plug those three things into here and solve for b, which is exactly what I did. You end up with some fractions. 1 plus 2/3 is 3/3 plus 2/3, which is 5/3. So b is 5 over 3. So these are my two equations. So the final product, y equals f of x, which is, what was my first equation? -x plus 2. And that is one in between 0 and 2, including 2. And then -1/3 x plus 5 over 3. Okay. And this is between 2 and 5, not including 2, but including 5. Okay. And that is your answer. Okay. Example 7. Draw the graph of the absolute value of x minus 2 minus 1. You could use a calculator, but hopefully you guys remember how to translate. The graph of the absolute value of x. The absolute value of x, as you hopefully recall, looks something like this. It's a V. If I'm going to subtract 1 outside the parentheses, it's going to move down 1. If I subtract 2 inside the parentheses, it's going to move over 2. So, this is my graph. You can leave the dotted lines in your notes if it helps you. Oops. Okay, you guys go ahead and try this one. Alright, I made a quick note here. This 3 is positive, so this is the same as negative x plus 3. That's why it moves this way instead of that way. Okay, so it moves to the left 3 and up 2. It's upside down because there's a negative out here. Okay, and yeah. This negative x inside the absolute value would actually cause the graph to rotate this way, like sideways. But because it's symmetric this way, when you flip this around, it's still a V. So it just looks like that. Alright, find a formula for f of g of x if g of x equals x squared and f of x equals this. Alright, so f of g, f of x is this, so instead of x, I'm going to take this and plug it in. And plug it in there for my variable. So I've got x squared minus 7. Now, I'm going to find f of g of 2, which is just 2 squared minus 7, or 4 minus 7, which is negative 3. Okay? Alright, you guys try these, and then when you think you have them all, hit play. Alright, these are the answers you guys should have gotten. Feel free to pause here and look over these if you need a little bit more time. And that's all.